Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm. In this video, we're going to actually start creating our player character. Now, we're not going to create him in this level 1 scene, or him or her or it or whatever it is. We're not going to create it in this level 1 scene. We're going to bring him into level 1 when we're done building it, but we're not going to work on him right here. We're actually going to create our own scene with only our character in it. So I'm going to click this plus button here to add a new tab. And in this scene, we're going to actually create our character. We're going to start by adding a node called a kinematic body 2D. Now, what a kinematic body 2D does is it allows for physics, it allows for collision, it allows for animation, and all the things that we would need for a player character, which is why the icon is this little running player character here. Now it's saying that, hey, there's an issue. You don't have a collision shape. You don't have sprites. You don't have all the things that you kind of need for a player character. And I agree. They are correct. So let's go ahead and start adding some of those things. The first thing we want to do is we want to add a sprite. So let's add a child node. Let's add a sprite. And the problem is if we add the sprite just by itself, then we're not going to be able to animate our character properly. So we actually need to add an animated sprite so that we can animate this character and it'll actually do the things we want it to do. Okay, and we have another error. Sprite frames must be created or set. Okay, so let's create some sprite frames. Over here, we can see that we have this empty frames option. I'm going to click New Sprite Frames. And then I'm going to click on it again to open up my animation window. Now in here, this is where we're going to create our animations. This is going to be pretty easy. All we have to do is we have to click this button here to add frames from a sprite sheet, which is what we're doing. Let's go into our art and let's grab our player sprite sheet and click open. Now it's going to tell us, it's going to pull up this art and it's going to try to figure out exactly what the art is in our project, but it gets it wrong every time. We need to count how many horizontal frames do we need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 frames per animation, 3 animations, that the math checks out. So 6 horizontal and we only have 1 vertical. Yours might be different depending on how you exported your sprite sheet, but that's what mine looks like there. Okay. And I'm going to select these first 2 frames here. These first 2 frames are going to make up my idle animation. So I'm going to select those frames and click Add 2 frames. So now I have an idle animation. And I'm going to change this to idle. There we go. All right, perfect. And I will click New. And this one is going to be my running animation. Run. I will add from sprite sheet, player, 6x1, and it's going to be these 2 in the middle. Add 2 frames. Those are my running animations. Perfect. Add a new one. I'm going to call this one jump. And then add in, and it's going to be the last 2 frames. Okay, perfect. So now that I have my animation set up, if I go over here, it's going to ask me which animation do I want to be the default. For me, it's going to be idle. And it's also going to ask me how fast am I going to be moving. 1 is probably good. And it's also going to ask, do I want this to be playing? And yeah, I do. I want it to be playing by default. And now I can see that my animation is going to be going at about that speed, which is a pretty good speed for my character. I don't need it to be faster or slower than that, so that works for me. Okay, now that our animations are all set up, we can actually create in our script ways to trigger our animations at certain points. We're going to get to that at a certain point. Okay, cool. This error still hasn't gone away though. The reason why is because we need a collider. So let's go ahead and add one. So as a child of the kinematic body, actually, I'm going to rename this for now. I'm going to rename this to player. As a child of our player, we need to add a collision shape, 2D. And for this, the shape that I'm going to choose is this capsule shape 2D. The reason why is if I did new rectangle and I created a rectangle collider around my character, notice that there's a very hard edge here, meaning that this is going to cause problems when we're running along a tile set that also has some hard edges as well. So I actually don't want it to be a rectangle. I want it to be a capsule. And a capsule is going to be like kind of a pill shape. And it's going to make it a whole lot easier for me to run along the ground. Now, you're not going to be able to perfectly cover your whole character, but that's okay. It's always better to cheat a little bit in your player's favor, so that they kind of feel like they got a break from the game and not. Now, notice how it's not snapping perfectly here. I'm going to go up here and adjust my snap settings. So that, oh, that's way off. Configure my snap. I want it to step by 1 pixel and 1 pixel. So that way, oh. It's snapping to the middle. That's weird. Let's see. So yeah, it's just a little bit off. Let's grow it by a little bit. Yeah, it snapped to the middle of my... Anyway, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay, I'm going to not play around with that too much. That looks fine enough. So I have my collider set up. At this point, I think we can actually start writing our script. Let's see. How far are we into the video? Oh, we're only 7 minutes in. Yeah, we'll easily be able to get some of the script written and get some movement at least going. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a player script. Now, a couple things. Notice that I just created a new script and the script came all the way down here. I actually don't want it there. I want it in my scripts folder. So I'm going to drag it up into my scripts folder. And also notice that my player is supposed to be an object, but he's not in the objects folder yet. That's because we haven't saved this. It's still unsaved. I'm going to go to Save Scene. And instead of putting it in my Scenes folder, I'm going to go to my Objects folder and I'm going to save it there. So now my player is saved and it's in the Objects folder where it's supposed to be. Okay. So let's go ahead and get rid of all of that code. We don't want any of it yet. We will add in whatever we need as we go. Okay, the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to basically create some physics for this character. This character is going to walk, he's going to run, there's going to be some gravity, and there's also going to be force that he expends whenever he hits the jump button or whenever you tell your character to jump. All of that needs to be accounted for in the script. We're also going to want to change its velocity as well. So let's do velocity first. Var velocity, which is going to be its movement on the X and Y axis. Because it's X and Y, it needs to be a vector 2. And we'll just set it to 0, 0 at the beginning of the game. Pretty easy to do. Now let's create those variables for speed, run speed, gravity, and jump force. I'm going to set this to 250. And you know what? We should create these as exported variables so we can play around with them as well. We'll say run speed is 400. You may not want running in your game. If you don't, that's okay. You can exclude run speed. It's completely up to you. I'm just adding it here because I know some people are going to want it. Gravity. We'll set gravity to 40. And jump force is going to be -800. And you're probably thinking, Mr. Storm, why did you just type a negative there? You just made a mistake. I'm so embarrassed for you. Now think about how X and Y works in Godot. Remember that if we're going up, we're going negative on the Y. If we're going down, we're going positive on the Y. Okay? So in order to go up, we need to go negative. Okay. Now we need to actually make these things do something. So remember those functions that we have by default, we had a function process delta. We're going to use the physics process delta. This is going to be much better for physics processes, for things that are physical movement and whatnot. First thing we want to do, let's set our velocity.y to increase based on gravity. So that means our gravity is now going to force our character toward the ground. That's what we want. And at this point, let's see, we can actually test it. So I'm going to save this, save all scenes, save everything else. I'm going to go back to level 1. Now I don't have a main character in here. So to bring my main character in, I can choose this link button, and it will basically create an instance. It will instantiate a version of my scene that I want. And I want my player object to be instantiated into this project. So I'm going to click open, and I'm going to put my player object right about, let's put him here. And now when I play, watch what happens. Nothing. Absolutely nothing happens. All right, let's see what's going on here. Script is good. Everything's good. So my velocity.y plus equals gravity. That's good. I think I know what's going on. I have to, at the end of my physics process, I have to actually make something happen. So velocity equals, we're going to use this method called move and slide. Move and slide is going to basically allow us to move and slide is going to basically allow us to make a change to our movement in the game, right? And so the reason why nothing was happening is because I was changing my velocity.y, but my velocity.y wasn't changing anything about my character. This move and slide method will actually change what's going on with your character. So I'm going to save all my scenes again, go back to level 1, hit play. So now we saw that he dropped. I still can't run, I still can't jump, I can't do anything else, but I at least know that my character is being affected by gravity. Okay, perfect. Let's go back to the script. And let's get our character moving around on the screen. Okay, so right underneath my velocity, my gravity thing, let's check to see if inputs have been, let's check to see if any buttons have been pushed. Now, in order to do that, obviously we've got to set up our controls. Let's go to Project, Project Settings, Input Map. And we don't have any new actions, so let's create some. Let's create right, left, jump, and run. Okay, right, left, jump, and run. Right is going to be physical key D. Or not physical key, sorry. Did I do physical key on that one? I said physical key, but I actually pushed key. It's going to be key right. And it's going to be joystick button, D-pad right. And it's going to be joy axis, left stick right. Now, you don't have to add these last two. These are just if you want your your players to be able to play with a controller. I add these in just because you can add them in later, but what we really need is D and right. So let's do the same thing with left. A, left, D-pad left, okay. Jump is going to be, I'm going to make my jump spacebar. I'm also going to make my jump W, and I'm going to make my jump up arrow. And then I will make my jump button is going to be cross A or B. Yeah, that'll be a good button for jump. And run is going to be, I'm going to make my run shift. And I'm also going to make it control. And then on my controller, it's going to be square. There we go. Perfect. So now we can say if input dot is action pressed. And we'll say right first. Then we can do something. Now, what we want to do is we can just say velocity dot x equals speed if we want. But we also want to account for if it's running. So let's put another if statement in here. If input dot is action pressed run, then we'll do velocity dot x equals run speed, else velocity dot x equals speed. So that means if we're pushing right, then we'll go right. But we're also going to check to see if we're holding the run button. If we're holding the run button, then we're going to run we're going to run. If we're not, we're just going to go at a regular speed. The other thing we want to do is we want to play the walk animation. Now this is going to be really important. This is a concept, this thing that we're going to use here right now is an important concept that you may not have. Yeah, we haven't talked about this yet. So let's actually talk about it. This script is being written for this object here. Now these things are children of that object, but I can't directly access those things just by typing their name. So if I wanted to change the animated sprite, I couldn't just change the animated sprite options, even though it's highlighted and everything looks good. I couldn't do it like that. What I have to do is type this $ first, then animated sprite. And then I can access the values that are inside animated sprite. Specifically, what I want to access is this play feature, and I want to play my run animation. So if I'm running, I want to play the run animation. Next, I want to flip H, meaning flip horizontal, equals false, because I'm already facing to the right, and I want to keep facing to the right if I'm running to the right. Okay? Perfect. Next, we have to do the same thing for the left input. The nice thing is we can literally just copy and paste and just make some changes. So I'm going to say elif instead of if, and instead of right, I'm going to say left. And then instead of run speed, it's going to be negative run speed. And instead of speed, it's going to be negative speed. Okay. And flip H is going to be true instead of false. Okay. Now the other thing I need to do is in order for my movement to be smooth on the left and right axis, I have to do something called lerp. Lerp sounds weird, but it's basically linear interpretation. So velocity.x is going to equal lerp, which is going to be this mathematic calculation. And it's going to basically slow down my movement over a linear factor over a certain amount of time. This is going to make it so that I actually kind of slow down instead of immediately stop when I'm done hitting the key. So for us, it's going to be velocity.x, 0, then 0.2. That's what I found is probably the best for lerping. All right, let's go ahead and save this. And let's test it out. Oh, not player. I don't want to test the player scene. I want to test the level 1 scene. Okay, perfect. Now I can move back and forth, but notice that my character doesn't stop animating from the run animation. That's a problem. That's something that we need to fix. And a matter of fact, that's the last thing we're going to fix in this video because we're already over 10 or 20 minutes. So the last thing I need to do is down here below my elif, I'm going to do an else. And we will just say animated sprite dot play, and it'll be idle. So that way, if I'm not pushing my left or right keys, then we're going to be idle. Save all scenes, play, actually play here. Oh gosh. Why did that not grow with it? Okay, so I can stop and it'll actually stop there like it's supposed to. Let's fix that one issue. It's really just going to be in project settings, general, window. Let's see. Resizable. Oh, stretch right here. Let's add it. Let's make it 2D stretch and keep aspect ratio. There we go. So now if I full screen, it should actually, yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So we have a character that can go back and forth. He cannot jump yet. We'll add jumping in the next video. And then actually, jumping's not that complicated. Let's do jumping now. Let's do jumping now. There's no point in saving it for another video. There's going to be a bit longer, but we'll be able to get through it. I promise. Okay. So in order to get this guy to jump, there's a couple things we need to do. First, we want to play its animation if he's not on the floor. So we'll say if not is on floor. Now, I cannot stress to you guys how much I love this feature in Godot. In Unity, to create a method that would check to see if your character was on the floor, it was such a pain. But to be able to actually just type out the method and it's already created for us, it is a godsend. I'm telling you, this is so much better. So if he's not on the floor, then let's play the animated sprite. Let's play the jump animation. Now you're probably thinking, why are we doing it whenever he's not on the floor? Why not do it just whenever he jumps? The difference is if we do it when he's not on the floor, then anytime he's falling off a platform, he'll actually go into the jump animation as well, which is kind of what we want unless you don't. So if you don't want it that way, then you can modify your script so that he only jumps whenever the animation only plays when he's jumping. All right. Now next, we need to check to see if he's input dot is action just pressed. Now we're going to do just pressed for this and not pressed. The reason why is because we want it to be only if we want it to only trigger one time you press the jump button. With movement, you want to be able to hold the button and then move as long as you want. With this, we only want to jump once. So we'll say if is action just pressed. And the action is going to be jump. Okay. But we also want to check to see if you're on the floor. So and is on floor. Again, this is so much easier than in Unity. So if the input, if the action button, or if something is just pressed and it's jump and we're on the floor, then we're going to actually make them jump. And to make them jump, all we have to do is set velocity.y equal to jump force. That's it. That's the whole thing. That is all of our jump code. And this is our full character controller with animations and everything else. Let's test it. Save all scenes. And let's go ahead and play. And my character jumps. And he collides with the level. He jumps. Let's check those tiles over here. I can jump through it and land on them. Perfect. My game is working exactly the way I want it to. This is fantastic. So next we'll probably get into, I don't know, maybe camera settings, set up some parallax or whatever. But we got through quite a lot today. So give yourselves a pat on the back, round of applause, whatever. And we will get on to something a little bit different next time. All right. See you later.